Well, good morning, everybody. Right now, we're watching a deep upper level low that's kind of making its way out of the Intermountain West, out of the Rockies, and it's going to continue to eject, where after last night it delivered some pretty nasty storms all along the front range of the Rockies here. Now, this low is going to make it quickly into parts of Canada, probably right into central Ontario. I'll show you where that's going to go in a few seconds, but it's the wave that comes behind it that's interesting in terms of the major flip in temperatures. What you're looking at here is what we're expecting in terms of the extent of the frost. One of the first big ones coming through the Midwest, to the northern plains, to the upper Midwest of the year. And this is just the newest update over the next 7 days on where we're expecting to get those temperatures at or below 35 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're looking at a frost event here. So what's going on right now is that these low temperatures, which are extremely warm in this area, some of the low temperatures here didn't even get down below 70 last night. As we just play through the week, that's Wednesday's lows, getting into Thursday and Friday. You can see the system advancing. That's the one that went through Ontario. Its front's going to kind of drag through here slowly, but it's the wave that follows it that first puts down the coldest air, probably Friday morning, into parts of Montana and the northern plains, getting all the way down here into parts of Kansas. And then as we play into Saturday morning, you can see that white contour indicating where we've got the risk of hitting a temperature below 32. From Saturday morning to Sunday morning, it's another cold one throughout a big section here of the country, while the west warms up under another ridge. The Midwest and the south and southeast go over quite cool. So again, we're going to see in overnight lows up to a 30-degree swing in temperatures here just in the next 5 days or so as this shot at colder air comes through. And that's really what it is. It's a shot of colder air, and I want to explain to you why. We just go have a look at what's going on in the jet stream level winds. We're going right now down on top of the North Pole right here. As I animate this forward, I'm just keeping an eye on the overall setup of the jet stream around the planet. And I'm looking for where the branches are. I'm looking for if there's any sort of blocking. So what you notice is we get this long extension of the jet that comes all the way across the Pacific Ocean. So we've got this polar branch that's extended, and it's coming into North America, and that's where the split is occurring. So we have a subtropical piece here, and then we're watching these kind of highly amplified ridges, in this case, moving through while troughs are hitting the northwest. This is the same thing I showed you yesterday when I was looking at the Pacific North American pattern, kind of going up and down, being quite volatile. So as you just play this through early next week and then move on, what I'm going to have to pay close attention to is this. We are getting more influence from the polar branch of the jet right now than the subtropical branch of the jet as we work our way toward the middle of the month of October. And as you see here, there is no large-scale blocking ridges that are expected to set up in this area, which means overall this pattern is going to have a bit more of a zonal flow to it at times, according to the new forecast models. And therefore, after this brief shot at some really cold air that's going to come through here, I think we're going to go back to much more seasonable temperatures. But that's what we expect in October. We get this. We get these punctuated brief interludes of colder air followed by a quick warm-up, and then they come back again. So this only gets us out to mid-month. There's a whole lot more this month to go, and we should expect more volatility, but that's at least the latest setup. So I don't think it'll be any surprise when I show you the next 5 days looks like this. There's the colder air we're going to be watching late this week into weekend. That's day 5 through 10 when the coldest air is kind of pretty well established over the east, while the west sees another ridge that develops. And then as we play it forward, as you saw, the extended Pacific jet tries to come back in the west. So that pushes everything forward, and we go back to normal to maybe cooler than normal temperatures here while the warmth spreads back in this direction. So I think this temperature pattern is pretty well laid out right now by the models. At least we got a good idea on the timing of when this frost event is going to be coming through. It's going to start off Thursday morning in Canada, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just progressing from Montana all the way to North Carolina. Now, that's not a frost in North Carolina, but that's the progression of the colder air, okay? All right, from here, take a look at this. This is a 15-day forecast of precipitation anomalies. Now, we'll talk about the systems that are coming out like this, but I am quite interested in what I'm seeing down here. We're worried about the drought, that flash drought that could be developing in the southeast. We know that there's drought issues already in the central part of the United States on the headwaters of the Mississippi. We've got heavier rains coming for Texas, the Red River Valley, parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, and of course here in the northern tier of this next system coming through and on the nose of that jet coming into the Pacific Northwest. But this down here warrants more attention. And this is what's going on right now. If we look at the latest update from the National Hurricane Center, we've got two areas that we need to be watching for development. Okay, they're both given pretty high probability of developing. But what I'm interested in is how the atmosphere is allowing it to occur. So this is a global map of what's called velocity potential. Wherever you see the greens and the arrows diverging, that's where air is going to be rising. Wherever you see the reds, that's where air is converging and air will be sinking. So a lot of suppression here and a lot of rising motion here and here. Now, this is going to be really important for the last part of my presentation this morning, talking about South America. But can you keep an eye right here? This is the European model solution. And as I play through the next 15 days, what I continue to see is kind of the lid's been taken off of this area. And it's the same thing if you go and look at the GFS. Let's go back to the 0Z run on the GFS because the 6Z is not fully in. But look, we're out here all the way to the middle of the month, and I'm just seeing, really good indication of rising motion in this area. Now, I went over and just tried to look to see what some of the early model cyclone tracks are doing. So we're going to go to weathernerds.com, great website here. And these two areas of development, do you just notice how there's a bit of disorganization in this? Which means this area, while very conducive to tropical thunderstorm development, we're not yet seeing full-bore, concentration of lows. What I am concerned about is something coming out and getting into Mexico. So maybe it's this wave, maybe it's this wave, I don't know. One of the two getting into Mexico and starting to make their way here. Maybe it's into Texas. Maybe it's into the Gulf. Maybe it helps ignite something in the Bay of Campeche. You do start to see at the end of the animation, let me get my drawings off there, some low pressure forming in that area. And I want to watch that very, very carefully in this longer range forecast. So keep that in the back of your mind because I'm going to come back to it in just a few seconds, all right? As it stands, as the sun was rising here across the east, and take a look at that. The day-night line is running straight north-south because, of course, we just passed the equinox. I'm going to show you yesterday. Some of that wildfire smoke we mentioned is now getting into the southeast. This is from about 12 days ago from fires that were in, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and parts of Manitoba. You can very clearly see the depth of those large storms that popped up last night, and some of them locally put down some very heavy rainfall. This is just a quick snapshot, of our last 24 hours of total accumulated rain. And some locally extremely heavy rain in this area, and with it some hail. Just a look at some of our hail streaks right in through here. Well, today the severe weather risk pops out in the plains. The National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center upgraded this area to an enhanced risk later today. And then we're going to watch day 2 tomorrow down here on the 4th, getting into this part of Texas. Now, the reason why it's only down here is because this low stretches out and this front becomes weak as it comes through the Midwest. But down here, there's a secondary wave that's going to be kicking through that's going to give this whole area a couple of shots at getting some locally heavy rainfall. You can see that when I go to the high-res NAM. Ready? So this is 7 o'clock this morning, playing through the middle of the day today. So this will be the area we're going to watch most carefully for the risk of severe storms. A lot of this will be stratiform rain. Got some showers on the back side of this coming through Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming. This is 6 o'clock tonight, playing into the overnight hours. Now, we expect there to be a line of storms. Some of the models are kicking this line of storms off late this evening, coming out of South Dakota, stretching all the way down to the panhandles, and then pressing their way to the east. But by the morning, when the instability runs out, we're not expecting these to do like they can do in summer, which is to ride on top of the boundary layer and still feed on that upper level instability. It's fall. We don't typically get that same kind of behavior. It can happen, but it's not quite the same. So what do we notice? The low is curling up here. The front has been weakened, but there's a little wave on the back side of this coming through. And as I play into Wednesday, I want you to see two things. See this? That's the beginning of that colder air I was telling you about. So another round of showers out ahead of that one. But notice what happens on Wednesday evening here. Another shortwave pops through, gives us the risk of those stronger storms, and they go barreling through the Red River Valley of the South. And we've seen some pretty good evidence of this occurring. Meanwhile, the lead front here is pretty weak. The colder air is advancing behind it, and it's right out here about this point, 5 a.m. on Thursday morning. And it's going to set us up just to clear everything out in its path once it goes through. Then our attention goes back to the tropics, okay? So let me show you what this looks like on a vorticity map. So this is just looking at spin. The color means spin, doesn't mean temperature, rain, anything like that. So as we play this forward, there's lead wave ejecting. Got it? What we're going to watch behind it is secondary short wave reinforcing the storms Wednesday night in this area. This is the second wave, the third wave, I guess, since I'm numbering them, coming out of the Canadian prairie, driving the cold air in, and it gets wrapped up. See it there? Look at that. Wrapped up right here into a low that's going to cut off by Saturday over the Great Lakes. Now remember, whenever we see lows cutting off like this toward the weekend, we just get these pesky clouds and showers on the backside. But this will be a time of year where it's going to be cold enough right in through here to be delivering some snow out of this. The rest of the country goes boring. I mean, the flow just does that. So it's cooler, but there's a ridge trying to rebuild here, so it's warmer west, but the flow is convergent. No good source of rising motion Sunday into Monday. But now watch this. We know that the nose of the jet next week comes back into the Pacific Northwest, so there's your next shortwave. But take a look at what's going on here. Now, this is a single model run, but I'm next Tuesday. Keep your eyes down here, please. When we go forward into Wednesday and Thursday, odd behavior. That trough kind of came this way, and then notice, see this right here? It doesn't look like much. But by next Wednesday into Thursday, 10 days from now, we're starting to get a sense of something coming out here. And at that time, there's another trough. Remember that whole week on, week off idea, or 10 days on, I don't care what it is. It's open and moving. And what happens is there could be an interesting interaction with the base of this trough, whatever tropical feature this is, and these two may work together to do something like that. Now, I'm going to show you this by going to that dual model setup here, GFS left, European right. We've watched the wave number 1 get out. We've watched the heavier storms coming in here Wednesday night. It's in both models. Weaker front stretching through this part of like Illinois, Missouri, back up into Michigan. And then we know the secondary waves coming in here with the much colder air and windy conditions in the plains as we go from Thursday night to Friday morning. Now it all clears out by Saturday back in the plains. This is when the colder air dives into the midsection of the country and the low wraps itself up. Now you can already see the GFS putting down some snow in that area to be concerned about, but a lot of scattered showers in this area. And take a look. GFS is suggesting some lake enhancement. Great Lakes are about the warmest they get out of the entire year right now, so we'll get some good moisture and heat transfer out of them. I wouldn't put this, beside the lakes of being able to do that. That low curls up. You can see both models here attempting to put down some blue, so there could be some snow there Sunday night and Monday morning. But I said the rest of the country, boring. Just flow goes wrong. Now, here's the next low. It's in both models, a little different position, but it comes in, but we're going to keep an eye down here. Now, as I play forward, this is Monday into Tuesday. Low hits the northwest. This is Wednesday into Thursday. Now, in both models, although it's different, it's a different setup, the GFS has something lingering here, a frontal boundary. The Europeans got it way out, but it still comes back and lives in the Bay of Campeche. And something is here in both models that we're just going to watch pop out. Now, the GFS says, hey, why don't we just make a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico or Bay of Campeche? The Europeans like, all right, something's there, but we don't have it fully nailed down just yet. Now, notice I didn't talk much about what was happening here because we don't have good model agreement on that side of things. So we'll have to come back to that later in the forecast this week. But I do need to show you this. If I add up what the European model is projecting, we just play through the next 5 days. My heaviest rain's here. It's also with the load that's ejecting right in through here and the secondary wave that comes in behind it. We can also see heavier rains here as this low all curls up by the weekend over parts of the eastern Great Lakes. And that's where we just keep adding it. See it? All getting added right here. But now come back down here with me. See where the front is lingering? And that front, as it lingers there, is going to serve as something. I just got to watch this. Just watch this area. Don't forget, though, we do have another wave coming in the northwest. Now, that's 10 days out in the European model. This is 10 days out in the GFS. Still pretty good story aligning here. Next Monday, Tuesday. Now, watch what the GFS does down here. This is Monday into Tuesday. You see the GFS with the front farther to the north does attempt to kick something off. Now, we often look at the GFS and say, well, thank you for the phantom storm, but I don't know. I got to watch this carefully. But I said let's compare 10-day to 10-day, and this is the 10-day Euro. This is the 10-day GFS. Where are my driest spots? Well, they could be in parts of the Midwest. They could be in parts of the Southeast. They're still in parts of the Southwest because it's not yet the wet season there. And by the way, this is one of the weakest monsoonal years in history for parts of the Southwest, so they're looking for moisture. But now you've got an idea on where these two models are putting down this precipitation. Okay, if something gets into the Gulf of Mexico, it is still very warm there. Average ocean temperatures somewhere between 85, and I imagine a few of these places approaching upper 80s, maybe 90. So we've got warm water in there to work with. And the pattern, like I said, should something pop out day 10 in this area, look at this. This flow to the north of it is going to be a guiding factor going in this direction. But what I'm paying close attention to is the depth of the troughs that continue to come on the nose of that extended jet coming into the west. It just sets us up with an open and moving pattern. There's no blocking in this pattern. And there's nothing that you're looking at here that's blocking. So what did we see? We see an evolution of the week 2 forecasts going less dry in this area as the next wave comes through. It's going to be coming out of the Pacific Northwest and getting its way into the midsection of the country. Now, does that lead to a wetter end of October and a wetter start to November? Some models are suggesting that that's the case in parts of the Midwest. They've backed off on the dryness in the southeast. They've maintained the wetter conditions entering the Pacific Northwest, most likely on a continuation of the strong extension of the Pacific jet. But none of that is very El Nino in behavior, okay? Especially what's going on with the Pacific jet stream here. So we just need to kind of measure all of this against the subseasonal factors, which I think are controlling this, which we spent a lot of time yesterday talking about. This is that MJO phase 8, phase 1. Those two phases, I think, are controlling this pattern. Finally, I do want to bring up to speed why this rainfall would be so important to get into these areas. The latest 1 meter moisture availability in the soil. I mean, we've got to get better moisture into this area. We need to see the rains that I just forecast to come through this part of the south. And we're worried about the development of flash drought here, given how dry the forecast is. We're going to see improvement in the west, especially up here in the Pacific Northwest. And you got multiple chances of getting some rain in this area here over the next 3 to 4 days. So we expect this map to evolve pretty quickly here as we finish up this week. Some interesting, just an update. The website got fixed. So this is the newest update we have on the Mississippi River. It is currently at come over to this side of it. 9.58 feet below low stage, so just confirming what I showed you yesterday. I just like this view because it's got a whole year view on it. So this rainfall coming through needs to get into that river over the next month, or we're going to have major issues. We're already seeing reduced traffic. There's a lot of sandbars that are emerging. I had a few of you send me pictures of it yesterday. I appreciate that. Pretty impressive to see. Last bit today is going to be this. This is what's going on right now in South America. Now, do you remember earlier in this last 30 days, I was saying, the flow was coming like this and it was dry. Well, can you now see that we've got a bit more of a component coming in like that and then enhancement along the ridging here? Now, that's mountain ridging, not high pressure ridging. What that's doing in the overall forecast is this. Over the next 10 days, the models are adding up that rainfall, and we're seeing it start to improve in key planting areas. The driest area going forward is going to be the kind of the northeast corner of Brazil. These are the kind of monsoonal rains that have to come in to keep the planting progress on pace. This is going to shut stuff down south. Now, earlier, we've seen major planting progress like in Paraná, and heavy rainfall in this area might cause some replanting, because if we go by the models here, there's going to be places getting 150 to 250 millimeters of rainfall. So, these are some incredible amounts. 25 millimeters rainfall is an inch. So if we're getting 250 millimeters, that's a 10x on that. So we got to be careful with some of the flooding potential that is now being forecast for southern Brazil and what it's going to do to the start of the crop season down there. But that's what I got for you today on Tuesday. I'll give you another forecast tomorrow. Have a good one. Thanks.